Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wrestling Art with Chris Things.
Ray! Do the hammerlock! I do the hammerlock! Do the hammerlock, you turkey necks! Yeah, do the hammerlock!
Hi, friends.
I do the hammerlock!
Chris Things here. You've stumbled on another episode of Wrestling Art with Chris Things. I am your host, Chris Things Brian, and we have finally got here. I've been saying it for a little while now, but we're finally up to another Wrestling Art Curator edition of the show, those being the ones where I get to put on my interviewer hat, and I chat to some really talented other wrestling artists out there in this weird world of ours. This week, I am stoked to have Shining Wizard Designs on the show. I have looked up to this dude for quite a while. I've been a big fan of his work for ages, it feels like. In case you're not aware, Shining Wizard Designs, actually, he has done a variety of different books. Also, the brother of Chris Charlton, famed New Japan Pro Wrestling commentator, and encyclopedia of Japanese wrestling history trivia. But so Chris did a bunch of different books, and Shining Wizard did the amazing illustrations for them. So you might recognize the artwork from maybe the J Crowned series, or the Eggshells book, a bunch of different ones. But so very excited for you guys to get to listen to this interview with Shining Wizard Designs. Super interesting dude. I learned a lot in the chat. In some ways I felt a little bit underprepared, but you know, sometimes making these kind of like discoveries through a chat is more fun. So I'm very excited for you guys to listen to that. One thing about the interview is that so there was a bit where we were talking, and you'll hear this obviously, where I mentioned that, you know, sometimes as artists or creatives, I guess we can be a bit self-critical, and we can sometimes be quite mean to ourselves in our self-critiques and things like that. And that made me think that's a bit opposed to what I always tell you guys about the, you know, most important thing about this art thing being about enjoying it, you know? And I'm like, shit, how am I here being such an asshole to myself oftentimes, in my head, and tell myself, hey, you know, this next thing you do, you better be absolutely perfect or fantastic, or else you're like a massive failure, right? There's real negative self-talk, and then at the same time I'm telling everyone, hey, enjoy the art that you're making, enjoy the process, it's the most important thing. So I felt like a bit of a hypocrite when I was thinking about this. So I think the more I thought about it, the more I figured. So I do think it's very important to enjoy the making. And I think it's important to remind yourself of that, because we can get so obsessed with, you know, the end product and all that. You know, enjoy the journey, not the end. And I very much believe in that. But, you know, not all stages of making a painting, for example, are going to be enjoyable. You know, that's just sort of like a little bit unrealistic. And I was thinking about a lot of the ones I did for this last show. And you go through a bit of a journey when you're making a painting, you know, or you know, any sort of like creative endeavor, I would assume. And you go through bits where the whole thing isn't necessarily, a barrel of monkeys. It can have some real frustrating moments. You go through stages where you're like, oh man, this just isn't working. Like I envisioned how I wanted it to look in my head, and this just isn't kind of working for whatever reason. A lot of times you don't know what is making it not work, which is even more frustrating. So there's a part where you kind of like feel like you're banging your head against the wall, and then there's moments where you're like, oh man, I didn't think this was working. Then I tried this other thing, and then I made it so much worse, and I think I like fucked the whole thing. But then inevitably you keep dabbling away, and you save it. You turn it around. If you keep pushing, that's what I find the difference. If you give up on it when you think you fucked it, yeah, of course it's done because you stopped. But if you keep pushing through, I find, at least for myself, you can turn whatever you're doing around. So I don't know if that's any like overarching life advice or whatever, but at least when it comes to a painting, that bit where you do turn it around. To me, I'm talking about like enjoying the process. That is the most enjoyable part. It's almost like because you've gone through a bit of challenge, and then you finally like, all right, yes, I made it work, and that is the best feeling. And then that's the best feeling when you're looking back at that finished painting. And you're like, man, that was hard to get to. And other people might look at that and just think, oh, that's a pretty little painting there. But you look at it and you see the frustration. Sometimes that can be a little bit abrasive, but you see that journey you went through to get to a nice looking thing that you can be proud of. So I don't know if that's a little bit of words of wisdom for you there, but I think we're all as creatives hypocritical in a certain sense, but that's just part and parcel of the deal, really. So other than that. I mentioned last week on the show, I got a new thing that I'm doing. I've launched my new Chris Things Art fancy mailing list. So I'm very excited about this. So I did the announcement. If you can go right now to the contact page of christhings.com.au, and you can sign up to this mailing list. It's basically like a weekly email newsletter. Just giving a bit of an update of my latest stuff that's come out, any new works that might be available, exclusive updates on new originals as well. I'm trying to give you guys a special sort of advance opportunity where you'll be the first ones to know about any new paintings that are available, so be able to have first dibs there. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I had that first one come out on this past Friday. On the ground floor for my real diehards who are signed up to it. So if you guys are listening, know that I very much appreciate you guys for jumping on that. But yeah, that first one was fun to do. I think I'm very excited about this being able to sort of like have a little letter write-up kind of thing that I get to do for you guys each week. And yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes, especially like the sort of, obviously this part of the podcast is me kind of like talking about my week and stuff, but I think there's something really nice about being able to put that into words, on a page, on a e-newsletter or whatever. And yeah, I think getting to add the artwork's on there as well, and another special exclusive for you when I do my little summary of all the stuff I posted that week for different prints, or Way the Blade look back prints, or the match of the week or whatnot. In that e-newsletter I am posting match links, so if you want to watch the match that artwork is based off of, this is the very easy way to do it. So please, if you'd like to, sign up to the Chris Things mailing list newsletter. But alright, I think it's time. It's time for us to jump over to our latest wrestling artist guest for the Curator edition. All right, here we go. Very excited. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am once again very excited because we've finally got around to doing another one of our Wrestling Art Curator episodes. I have this extremely talented guest on that I've been talking about a little bit of a while now, but I'm stoked we finally got the opportunity to line up, and I get to talk to Shining Wizard Designs. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yay, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Oh, very welcome. Now, first of all, the names are always funny with this stuff, right? So I've known you, I think I've been following you on Instagram for quite a few years now, and I always just know you as Shining Wizard Designs, so as if, like, you know, that's your name.
Yeah.
So is there a preferred first name or anything else I can call you here?
You can call me Matt.
Matt? Okay, lovely.
Matt. Or you. Or yeah.
Any of this works.
Anything.
So off the bat, on that name, Shining Wizard Designs, always thought that was a pretty darn sweet handle. I fancy myself a bit of a Muto fan. Is that where that came from for you, or what?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. Again, like it's just the brilliance to it. I suppose it kind of adds a luster to whatever I'm producing. But yeah, it's Muto.
Yeah, a big fan. I always thought, and specifically that move, you know, one of the coolest professional wrestling moves that I think ever came around when I first saw it in the early 2000s. Blew my mind. Felt like everyone on the indie scene was doing their own rip-off of the Shining Wizard.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about Keiji Muto. We're here to talk to yourself. As I mentioned, I've been a big fan of your work for quite some time now. So I'm really happy to get to connect. Like you mentioned, we before we started recording, we kind of do a very similar thing. It's funny to finally get to connect on that.
No, it's beautiful. No, it's really nice to speak to you again. It's like watching you doing your own thing and boosting your value by being you rather than aping any other style. It's something that I can only hope to emulate, because you try and do something sort of aesthetic or of aesthetic value, and it's purely subjective, unless you want to do something sort of Disney-esque and perfect and photorealistic. You've got to be yourself in order to have any kind of value, and like you have done incredibly, and your work is so beautiful and so uniquely you. No one else can do what you do. You've got this instantly recognizable style, and it's just fucking beautiful. It's perfect what you've done.
Thank you so much. You're making me blush over here. That's very, very kind of you to say. But I mean, the recognizable style, distinctive style. This is something I'm very interested in. Somewhere along my way, sort of, found a style that I feel is me, and is comfortable, and that's what I dig, more than anything. It's just what I like. But I would also say your work, this is something I really wanted to talk to you about, also instantly recognizable. And I love that. I feel that's something that I've chased with all of the different talented people that I've had on this curated series of the podcast. But your style, you're not mistaking that for anyone else's work, and I don't think anyone could do a good job of trying to imitate that. Can you tell me a little bit about how you kind of got onto yours?
As a start, I mean, I think it's learning, I think, because before I started doing the whole pen and paper wrestling thing, I was pencils and oil paints and different type of art. And so if you kind of scroll all the way back like 8-9 years on my timeline, I mean, it's a very different thing, because I was learning how to work with a new medium. And so I was, as I started trying to recreate or to draw in the same way as I would with a pencil, freestyle or freehand, and using brush techniques with the little 0.03 or 0.05 nib, and it doesn't work the same. So I think over time it's just been gradually getting closer to sort of how I would work with a pencil, working with ink. So it's just been sort of a learning process and trying to adapt to a new medium.
I love that. So that is news to me. So you don't do any sort of like rough pencil outline for your pieces. You're just jumping straight into it with the ink.
Well, it depends. I mean, definitely if I'm doing something for publication, then I really don't want to have as many redos as it would otherwise. So no, I mean, if it's for something important, and kind of these days, sort of everything is for a book or for a magazine or for something. So most of the time these days, yes, there's a rough outline underneath, sketched out, but it's a real rough sketch. And no, usually now it's everything else is freehand with the pen.
So cool. I mean, as a audio medium here on the podcast, I highly recommend everyone jump on Instagram.com/ShiningWizardDesigns and take a look at this stuff while we're talking. Amazing work, like I said. In terms of trying to describe it, I'd say there's a finesse to your line work. And just like a beauty to it, the lovely patterns, and the hatching and cross hatching, and I just adore it. I don't know if I've done that proper justice in trying to describe it in an audio sense.
More than, yeah.
But I love it, man.
Thank you.
I mean, one of the things that I really enjoy about looking at your stuff is there's certain bits of your artworks, your illustrations, where I can tell you're having a lot of fun. From like just aesthetically, lovely to look at perspective, whether it's like in the hair or like beard textures, the masks, and especially anything that has like a sort of highly textured sort of like element of like different gear and stuff like that. It looks like you have a lot of fun with this stuff.
Yeah, that's the good stuff. Yeah, definitely. So lots of masks. I think anything where you've got, because you've got say individuals who are just sort of edifice, but anything where you're able to bring out the thing that's inside. So yeah, like you said, the brilliant texture or the expressions or I don't know, those people who are able to sort of convey their soul or their spirit through them, through their like physical form. I don't know, that's where it becomes really fun.
I love that. Yeah, it's always such a challenge for me, at least, trying to capture the spirit of someone, of a wrestler or whatever, especially your really kind of iconic ones, and to a point, for me it's sort of like you are trying to capture a likeness, but it's more than a likeness. It's what you're saying. It's about the spirit and the energy. I mean, how do you kind of approach that?
Trying.
Do you struggle?
Yeah, I do. No, I definitely. I think, yeah, it's that we're not sort of copyists, or at least I try not to be a copyist. I mean, I get upset at being called an artist because everyone who calls themselves an artist, I mean, you treat with suspicion. But more of an archivist. But then you got photographs for that, and you've got sometimes you got photographs for that. So it's, I don't know. Our job is not to copy, or like, as if there is, what's our worth? You know, I think there's something about trying to take that sort of hard to define, because we're not our physical form. We're not just our faces and our hands. You know, we're that thing inside, and trying to put that onto a piece of paper, kind of carve that into stone or trap that in amber. I mean, that's a challenge. You know, unless again you've got somebody like a Suzuki or Danielson or who it's so transparent. You know, their soul is like busting out of their face, so it's easy to get. You know, it's difficult. It is difficult. So I mean, lots of hours sitting at the desk and trying to work it out.
Oh yeah. Another one I love of yours. I'm just going through your stuff right now, but you're capturing the energy of Hikaru Sato. Just fantastic. He's definitely a favorite of mine.
Love, yeah.
I was lucky enough to actually get along to a hard hit show on my last trip to Japan, so he's particularly memorable for me right now.
Nice. Yeah, I've never been to a hard hit. I saw him for All Japan in person, like a long time ago, Fukuoka, and yeah, just again when he's somebody who can be everything. You know, it's impossible to kind of define him or put him into a box. And it was lovely to see him the other night on El Desperado's show. Now, a lot more people are suddenly realizing who he is or searching for him, and it's awesome.
Yeah, great to see. Tremendously talented performer there. But so going right back to the start for our chat here today, I'm always interested in like sort of the journey. You know, how you sort of like got started on this path of, you know, both your you know, sort of art journey in general, and how you started, you know, getting in touch with your dare I say your inner artist, but then also how you sort of got to specialize in such a beautiful way in you know, the niche of wrestling art.
The kind of art journey, I inverted. I got I was doing nothing, and I think I was a terrible pain in the ass in class. I was about 8 or 9, and I had a wonderful teacher called Miss Jones, and I remember my parents hated her because she used to bring Bob Marley into class, and she used to talk about the injustices in the world, and she was awesome. And I think she told me to just go outside and draw, and I'd never had any interest or shown any kind of ability. And I came back in with some mad pictures of trees, and she loved it. And suddenly I thought, well, maybe I can do this. And the picture was probably awful, but suddenly I felt as if I had an ability that wasn't there previously. And after that, it sort of became the thing that I could do. And so I kind of had that added confidence.
That is lovely.
And then with regards, like how I came to mix it with wrestling, I mean, I'd kind of always kept those things separate. You know, I was a wrestler, I was a promoter, and I did, you know, kept on drawing. You know, when I came here, because I live in the north of Spain, I'm from Cambridge, England. But when I came here, you know, the only thing I could do to make money was play guitar and concerts in bars and sell pictures that tourists might like. You know, so I went around town and drew the landmarks, and then went to all the little galleries and asked if they'd take them on sale or return basis. You know, so I had, you know, art and pictures which I was doing regularly, but then also I started my own promotion here. And I was trying to work at the same time, and it was, you know, a mess.
My gosh.
But my brother had just, he just started writing his first book, like A Lion's Pride, and he asked me to draw.
So this being Chris Charlton?
This is Chris Charlton, the New Japan English announcer fella. And he asked me to draw Inoki, Shinsuke, Tanahashi, and Tiger Mask. And I think the idea at the time was that it would be the cover of that first book. But then I think he got nervous about portraying the individual's image on the front cover because they're like a very strong privacy law. So he kind of stuck it in the center pages.
That being is that the Eggshells book?
It's not the Eggshells book. That was the second one. The first one, Alliance Pride. It was like his first stab at writing. It's like the history of New Japan up to that point, and he kind of came along at a time where people were the broader international public again were kind of returning to New Japan. It was suddenly a lot easier to access New Japan, and so to have this sort of written history in English was special, unique. It was one of the first of this newer generation of interest in the product, and so the book came out, the picture came out okay. And I didn't really think that much of it. It was like, okay, well, that's a cool thing, and I'm glad I could have helped him. And at the same time, I was having massive financial trouble with my promotion, and it was like a mental nightmare, and I needed to step away from wrestling, and I kind of set myself a goal. It was like, okay, at the end of this year, I'm going to stop and leave. And one of the last people that I had over to host like a training was Johnny Kidd.
Oh wow!
It's incredible and lovely guy, and learned a lot. And so I had some extra copies of Lion's Pride kind of about, and I was like, well, here's this, take this. He was flipping through, and he said that he was due to have his retirement match with Mike Quackenbush in I think May. And he asked if I could maybe draw a picture of like the both of us, both of them rather. So Quack and himself. I was like, yeah, I can do that. And so he went back to the UK, and I did a couple of portraits, one of Johnny Kidd, one of Quackenbush, and then I got in touch with a friend of mine, Sam, who made our posters. And I asked him, could you put these things in a wrestling poster style? And he did. And I sent them to Quack. And Quackenbush sort of instantly saw an opportunity to make money at the show, the Shikara tour, when they went over. So he printed up however many and charged an awful lot of money for signed copies of the poster. And so suddenly it kind of clicked, well, maybe this is useful. Maybe through doing this, I can help friends make money, And so the next person I thought of, who was still touring regularly in Europe at that time, was a friend of mine who I could write to. So I wrote to Zach Saber, and I asked him, would you be interested in maybe like a portrait? And you can sell them as like this bespoke alternative to like an 8x10 on the merch stand. He was like, yeah. And sort of graciously, I did like a numbered set, like 1 to 50, and he signed them. And again, he sold out. And so really quickly, at that point, it just kind of clicked. It's like, I've made more money for these two people in wrestling than I could ever have made as a promoter or as a wrestler, as an opponent. This is where I can be useful within wrestling, because wrestling is, everything. Wrestling is the promoting. Wrestling is the lights and the people in the ring itself, but everything that you do to perpetuate wrestling is wrestling. It's like this sort of ongoing mutual delusion. So anything you do to perpetuate that, you're servicing this thing.
That is an excellent description, by the way. Mutual delusion. That may be the best description I've ever heard of professional wrestling.
It's life in general. But and so I kind of realized, well, that's how I can be part of wrestling, and that's what I'm supposed to be. Rather than, again, kind of convincing myself, no, I can be useful as a trainer or as as a promoter. So I mean, it was just the best use of me within wrestling is to do these weird little pictures. And at the time as well, it was when WWE, I think, had a deal, and maybe they still do, with Rob Schamberger. Rob Schamberger. And
I think he recently finished up with them, actually. Funny you mention his name. But I think he's moved on. He's doing at least some stuff with AEW now, interestingly.
Good for him. Good for him, good for them. I mean, good for everyone, because the stuff he does, again, is fucking fantastic. I mean, he's this phenomenal artist, again, who's able to get like the essence of the movement in his work, and the depth to his work is just beautiful.
Oh, I'm a big fan.
Massive. And what is looking at his work, because the thing is, you go to WWE, you get like your action figure and you're set for life, and it's that sort of, you get an action figure to show your kids. Look, I was somebody. I was this larger than life character, and for me, having a work of art like of the quality of Rob Schamberger, something strangers could hang in their home of you. You're a wrestler, but you've been elevated to this level of high art, because somebody has sat in front of a canvas for however many hours, and suddenly I thought, well, I'm not that good yet, and I can't do that. And WWE or whatever, they have such a machine behind them, so they don't need anyone necessarily to draw pictures of them. But I mean, so then I wanted to start drawing those people that nobody had ever seen, or people who nobody would nobody would think of as art, but to put everyone onto that same level, to kind of elevate the effort that those people are making.
It's funny you say that, because I've thought oftentimes when looking at your work, I might be a certain specific wrestler, and I think to myself, I don't think I've ever seen anyone else do an artwork of this person, and you're making that happen, and I love that. And it's especially the weirder sort of lesser known kind of stuff. I think that's really cool.
And I think it's really important, because you've got, however, I don't know, 100, 150 kind of performers on WWE's books, but then again, worldwide, you've got 100,000 wrestlers making it happen, creating a culture and grinding in a way that is deserves deification. You deserve to be put on that platform. You deserve to be remembered. Like your effort deserves to be remembered. And I think whether your work is good or not, objectively, aesthetically pleasing, there's another person who sat down in appreciation of who you are and what you've done, to make something, to create something. So all the artists out there on Twitter and Instagram doing something to remember, and elevate these people, really important.
Yeah, for sure. It's you said something there that was really interesting to me, and made me actually think about my own journey a little bit, in terms of the finding a place in wrestling that you kind of belong, or you add kind of value. I had my brief 5-year career or whatever it was in the world of Australian wrestling, myself, and many too many injuries ended that, concussions and stuff, but I found myself at a place where I couldn't do that anymore, and then that was what pushed me on to get more involved in making art of wrestling. And I think I had a similar realization to what you were saying, where it was like, oh, maybe this is more my place. Maybe I was never a very good wrestler, back in the day or whatever. But like, I feel this is something that can add value to the world through this thing that we really love, that is professional wrestling.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that.
It's funny realization there, I think. But it's you had a very good way of putting that. So thank you. You've sort of brought maybe made something make sense in my mind a little bit more now. But so I, in addition to your style being so instantly recognizable, I think another thing that I've always had a big admiration for is the output. Your output of work, and of matches that you've illustrated, is quite honestly phenomenal. And I often look at your output and I think, how is a human doing this? So that was something that I wanted to ask you. How does that work? How do you keep up this output? I mean, I assume a big part of it is the enjoyment that you get out of it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it so much. But I mean, yeah, please tell me a bit about that.
Oh, I'm not sure I could. I mean, it's I think I've become afraid that I'm not much use at doing anything else. And I don't sleep very much. So so no, it's more of a compulsion. I mean, it's I think I have a problem, and I have had a problem throughout my life with being defined by a thing. You know, who are you and what are? And I think we maybe all do. You know, we define ourselves by the work that we do. Or we define ourselves by our interests, and it's definitely got to a point where I define myself by this. You know, whether anyone would notice if I stopped for a day or 2 days, but I think it's so much part of the framework of what I do. And I think frameworks are so important. If you're going to produce everything or something or anything, there's got to be a sort of internal rule set. and sort of the internal rule set to this is that it's got to be something every day. Because again, it's like at the beginning, looking at all these people who were, again, objectively a million miles ahead of me in terms of talent and aesthetic recreation. You know, everyone on Procreate or whatever tablets they're using, whatever. It's like, well, if I am gonna kind of stick with these sort of scratchy, inky things, I've got to do something that is unique, or at least do something that nobody else is doing. And that would definitely the input or the output rather, doing something on a daily basis, something that nobody else was doing, and I think only a few people have tried doing since. So it certainly started out as a way just of distinguishing myself, because again, if you're going to be, or if my stuff was going to be valued, it would have to be valued purely on its own merit, rather than what it looked like sitting above your fireplace. So yeah, initially it was just a case of distinguishing myself, but now it's become sort of so intrinsic to the process. It's just part of my life, and I can't go to sleep without doing a picture. Otherwise, the sky will fall down. But I kind of realized that perhaps that's not healthy, and I think part of the project which I'm doing now, there's a world of wrestling going on, which is being serialized in PWI, and it's going to be a book coming out in January 2025. I mean, hopefully after that, I'm definitely going to change things and step away for a bit, maybe, or step back and change the way that I do things so it can be more useful to my daughter and myself, probably, rather than sort of the world of wrestling for a little bit.
That is so cool. Congratulations, by the way. That is very cool. About that as a upcoming release. How long's that been in the pipeline for?
Well, I mean, it's as an idea, maybe for a year and a half as an idea, but the idea is it's a match a day for the calendar year 2024. So this project's been going on since January 1st, 2024, and yeah, again, incredibly grateful to Kevin at PWA because he called me like last year, at the beginning of last year, to do like an illustration for a feature on fantasy bookings. So I ended up drawing Roman Reigns for the first time in my life. It was Roman Reigns and Okada,
All right.
and he's an incredibly open, friendly, patient guy, and so I sort of bombarded him with a few pitches over the following months. Like, well, I could do that. I could bring back move of the month, or whatever. I could illustrate that. You can get somebody to write about it, or whatever. And he was always, oh yeah, well, we'll think about that. And then I pitched this book at the end of last year, and he was like, yeah, well, maybe we can make that work. And so then having them as a partner in this is really important and really really cool, really cool.
I mean, that's honestly awesome. I mean, for me, I can't even remember the first PWI that I purchased back in the day. There's certain things that are part of your wrestling fandom, especially as a kid and growing up, and PWI has been that for a lot of people for a lot of years. So to actually be able to do something in that official channel, I think that is so awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Again.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you.
So that brings me on to another thing I wanted to talk about of sort of the cool stuff that we get to do as part of doing this weird wrestling art niche, and sort of significant kind of accomplishments. And you mentioned those initial books with Chris. Another one being the J Crowned book. So is that am I right? That's 3 books to your name, or is there more there that I'm unaware of?
Well, there's 3 J Crown books. The first one coming out on Hybrid Shoot, like your Way of the Blades, which you did an insane job on. Insane. But then after that,
thank you.
Incredible, like incredible work. And then after that, there's J Crown Volume 2 and the J Crown edition, which is all about the lineage of all of the belts that made up the J Crown. So the 8 different junior titles. And then there's a companion on a road less traveled, which is a set of road diaries. So Tom Lawler, Brian Keith, Akari, Jetta, and Royce Isaacs. And then the DDT book, which came out last year by Michelle Kane, and a Stardom book by Rob Goodwin. There's stuff. There's stuff. I'm like a cat that kind of brings kind of drowned rats in and drops them at the feet of the owner and saying, "Here you go." Blah. And the owner's looking at it like, what's this? It's art. It's good. There's stuff out there, and just really lucky. I mean, lucky to have like a platform and to be able to put stuff out.
Tremendous. So these kind of things, I personally, I don't know whether it's being someone with attention deficit disorder or what it might be, but when I have these kind of cool things come along, be it a book or a show or whatever it might be, I put a tremendous amount of pressure on myself to get it done, and I get through it, get it done. it can go, really, really great, like the Way of the Blade book. And, a lot of people say a lot of really lovely things about it, and that makes me feel nice. But internally, I'll often just like be like, all right, that's done. What's next? I won't
Yes.
sort of take a moment to properly sort of appreciate the achievement of it for myself. I'm interested in that very much, obviously because we're doing, somewhat similar kind of things. How do you manage that? Do you take a moment to smell the flowers or appreciate how good the flowers smell in those times?
No, like not at all. No, and I think then that's to the detriment, like of of the work. And I do kind of think, well, if I'm justifying this fucking mad thing that I do by saying, well, no, it's a way of elevating others, and then I don't give that work the sort of the value that it deserves, or the value that I'm telling other people that it has, then it sort of undermines and undercuts it. And I it's this horrible fucking spiral where, yeah, I mean, I hate myself, I hate my work, and I think, ultimately it's just marks of a crazy person on paper. And it's just sort of building up here in this cupboard behind me. Um, you have to, so because there are people, I mean, lots of people who have, and for yourself as well, who paid money which they could have spent on food, or could have helped with the rent, or whatever else, but they paid money for my stuff and they've hung my stuff on their wall. I kind of owe it to them to make something of it, or to value it, regardless kind of what I feel about my own stuff. Again, like we said maybe before we went on air, it's like it's uncomfortable to look in the mirror. I don't want to. I don't want to just get out and do stuff and keep doing stuff. But and then that's the sort of trap that you're stuck in. Because if you don't want to take time to further elevate the work which you've done, which deserves to be put perhaps on a pedestal, and you just keep moving and you just keep churning stuff out, and that stuff kind of loses value. And so it's an interesting trap, and it's, I don't know, I need a professional to come and look after me and take care of that stuff. You know what I mean? I like to be responsible for putting it on a pedestal, because I can't do that. I can make it and I can throw it out into the world and hope maybe that it sort of finds the right shore, or takes root somewhere. But I can't be responsible for aggrandizing it. You know what I mean? And I think
I do.
What you've done, but what you've done, and I think especially, I don't know why, maybe the last year or so, like, you have so many really interesting entrepreneurial kind of think, like the podcast and the exhibitions. And it's like, yeah, your stuff deserves to be in galleries, and you deserve to be, I don't know, elevated, because you're incredible as an artist. And so like, everyone should buy Way of the Blade, and everybody should buy your prints, because it's incredible work. Nobody else can do that stuff.
Thank you again. I think, I don't know, it's a toxic trait of, I think, a lot of artists. We can be our own harshest critic. We would say such lovely things when we're talking to other artists about their work, but then we can be so quick to be so cruel with our own sort of internal criticisms. And sometimes you need a bit of that, and you need a bit of that manic kind of like mean internal dialogue to keep creating, a bunch of stuff, and putting that pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
There's got to be a happy medium.
Well, that's what we're all aiming for, right? A happy medium. And yeah, I haven't found it yet, but it's the ideal,
Yeah.
for sure. No, but that's it. You can't you can't say that your work is garbage and then ask someone to pay €100 for it or whatever. You can't say it's got no value, but then because if it has no value, then you might as well just disappear. And the whole thing is that we can't disappear, and we're doing this work to avoid disappearing. And no, it has to be given the value that it has. It's just difficult to be sort of objective. It's always difficult to be objective.
Yeah, of course. I mean that sort of leads me to sort of balancing it with the rest of your life kind of thing. When I'm sort of like having these kind of like really critical, really putting a lot of pressure on myself, wanting things to be just right, or chasing perfection, which is never a thing anyway. But regardless, I feel sometimes that can then, obviously I kind of just internalize that, but it can have a negative effect on the other sides of your life and the people around you, and especially that balance. So that was something I was interested to talk to you about how you kind of make that balance work. I know you mentioned before you could probably do it better, but how does that work in terms of how much time that you're able to give to your practice, versus the other responsibilities in your day-to-day life?
It depends how much work I've got. In real world work, I mean, at the moment it's difficult. Doing a 6-day week, and so it's hard. Because it's not something that you can just snatch 20 minutes and 30 minutes and sit down. You need hours to sit down and concentrate and focus. So I mean, at the moment, it just means literally I'm not sleeping very much. So going down maybe at 2-3 a.m. and waking up at 7 a.m. and getting back on with it, or 6, 7. And then somehow pretending to be all right and get through the day, and then go back to the drawing board. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult to juggle. At the moment, it's difficult to juggle. Kind of, again, I do a bad job of balancing. And when things are going well, everything is fantastic. And when things are not going well, I'm a bit useless and a bit unpleasant. And I need to get a lot better at that.
I think we all do. In preparing for that last art show, I swear the amount of times I felt that my brain was melting to the point that I couldn't be a well-adjusted person or even communicate like a normal person. It's a struggle, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But on to a more fun question here as we get to the pointy end of our chat here today. One of my favourite things to ask other wrestling artists is who are your favourite wrestlers to draw?
But I think, again, like I said, anyone who shines out, and I think I mentioned Suzuki earlier. I think I'm always gonna love drawing Minoru Suzuki. Danielson, Desperado, Maki Ito, Misawa. I don't know too many. I mean, I can't. It's difficult, because again, I try and cast as wide a net as possible, and I kind of always try and catch myself whenever I find myself repeating somebody too much. Naito as well. Like his facial expressions are always golden, and his hair is fun to draw. So I do enjoy Naito.
Absolutely.
No, I think there's beauty in everyone, and but it's those who make your work, again, like you said right at the start, who make your work fun. So those who have their soul busting out of their face, those people who are kinetic, even when they're frozen, you stopped the live feed, but you can still kind of see the image flowing through and see that moment. I don't know, there's beauty in everyone, so I wouldn't find it easy to kind of pick one or two, but Suzuki is someone I'm always going to come back to. And I think as a as a pure lifer as well. Um, and for him to have like this playfulness with his viciousness, his range and his attitude, so I think if I were to pick one person above everyone else, Minoru Suzuki, but that would be terribly unfair to the rest of everybody else.
That is a tremendous answer, and I love it because I've been a big time Suzuki fan for a long time, and I agree. There's a certain magic about Suzuki and his range and his a real magical thing to me is that the contrast that he's able to bring in the ring of, well, like you said, at one moment being playful and a little bit comedic, and then like shutting that down in a split second to being such a maniacal sadist. It's just really a thing of beauty.
Yeah. It's like Aja Kong as well, the same generation. She was saying something earlier last month or the month before. It's like that Aja Kong that you remember from the 80s doesn't exist anymore. This thing isn't. We live and we grow and we learn. And it's. I think that's the thing with Suzuki. You can't pigeonhole people. You can't say, no, you're the Pancras guy from 92 or 93. You can't um and then expect them to be that as an old man. You can't expect them to be that character. And especially like his attitude or their attitudes towards professional wrestling. It's like you're a wrestler within the ropes. But then when you're outside, you're not competing. You're a human being, as fun as you like, and goofy as you like. So it's impossible to define people just by one trait or one thing they've done or one thing you remember them for. People change and people grow, and it's I don't know, this multi-dimensional thing, and yeah, that's what always makes these people kind of a pleasure.
Oh, it's a constant state of evolution, really.
Yeah.
The most successful wrestlers, I feel, and Suzuki, tremendous example of that. Speaking to sort of the enjoyment element of what you said about these illustrations, uh, so those favorites that you just list off, which thank you very much for being able to narrow it down to one. I get nervous now. I almost
No,
want to ask people their favorite,
sorry.
but
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
personally know how hard that would be for me to answer to narrow it down to one. So I've
No,
changed
I
it to favorites.
couldn't. Yeah.
Sort of on the enjoyment side of it, those names that you list off, uh, so it sounds like it's kind of like they're the ones that you get an enjoyment from drawing because of their energy, like on page, or a combination of that and the interesting visuals, or how would you sort of like describe that part of it?
I think the thing about them that makes it so easy is that everything maybe in which they're involved is interesting because of their energy. So interesting visuals is never an issue if you have these individuals. It's kind of almost a shortcut. Like
Mm.
say, however many years ago, where I worried about Twitter views and likes and what have you. It's like you go through a phase of like 10 people seeing your stuff and maybe liking it. And it's like, I need to draw Minoru Suzuki. I need to draw a Naito because you're always going to have an image that will pop because they're in it. And again, for some reason, yeah, they're that sort of transient thing that is so difficult to somehow grasp in others is there on the surface with them, and just sort of having them there on the page pops whatever it is that you're drawing, and instantly makes it engagement worthy. It instantly makes it something that's going to draw people to what you do, and so that it's really interesting, and not because of that. It's just it's fun because they're so malleable.
Mm.
They're people that you can put in almost any situation and will appear beautiful, through, complete accident, not complete accident, but you're not putting as much effort necessarily into capturing that very difficult element of them, because it's again, it's there on the surface with them at all times.
Yeah, I guess it's a intrinsic quality of a truly great professional wrestler. If based on the visual element of the medium alone, that they're able to impart such a whether it's an energy or a drama or whatever it is that's the magic of professional wrestling. But it's all about those visuals. So it does make
Exactly.
sense that the very best would have that unique je ne sais quoi, for lack of a better word.
No,
But
exactly.
I love that.
It's like meant to write down before I came on the name of the main photographer for CMLL. But some of the work that he's doing, I think, in sticking with the still image.
Alex, right?
Yeah.
Alex Salazar, is it?
Good man. Yeah. Well done.
I might not be getting that quite right, but
more prepared than I am. But
I think I actually got that one off the top of my head. I'll give myself a little pat on the back of that. I'm honestly shocked.
I'll give you a pat on the back.
Thank you.
You felt it. Are they they're putting so much weight into the still image, which I think a lot of people or a lot of promotions don't. And you go to say their social media, they're very quick with getting the highest quality still photography, and what he does is because he's been doing it for a long time, but his timing is perfect. He seems to, whatever show it is, whether it's at Pueblo or Guadalajara or Mexico City, he's always in the right place at the right time to capture this perfect still image, perfectly framed image that you can stick on your wall, and just it's high art. And he kind of grabs that moment so perfectly, and sort of, instead of relying on, say, a GIF where you have a move or a moment which is done and done, there's a mystique to a still image, like this iconography of professional wrestling, which again kind of elevates it to this religious sort of divine thing. It's not a fleeting moment. It's this timeless, frozen thing, which you can elevate and imagine and fantasize about in a way that you can't with a GIF or with video.
That is a beautiful way of putting that. Honestly, I've been a bit of a fan of Alexis's work for a while, but I have never quite heard the beauty of his photography put into such nice words. Or such a great way of putting it. So, but I agree completely. I absolutely love it. I mean, do you, in terms of references, use things like that, like some of his photography as reference images, or are you mainly going off of like match footage, or a combination of the two?
It's a combination of the two. And where there's match footage, so whether it's sort of Wrestle Universe or New Japan or CMLL or YouTube or whatever, I'll always try and go there, because I got uncomfortable with. It's always an uncomfortable kind of line when you're working from a photograph, because you're taking somebody else's work. When I do take from a photograph, I kind of, more recently than not, I do kind of take pains to try and credit the photographer as much as myself. But yeah, no, I've absolutely used his work as reference, because it's again, it's something that I can only, I don't hope to achieve. I don't know. It's yeah, I have it. It's a mixture of the two. If there's footage available, then I'll always try and go to the footage.
Yeah, I'm probably the same. I have a crazy a lot of screenshots on my phone from different wrestling photos that I've come across that I'm like, oh, that is absolutely beautiful. I could do something with that. I could do something with that. But yeah, man, I could honestly chat your ear off for a lot longer than this. I think if you'd be comfortable, I would love to do a part two at some point in the future.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, no, I'm always worried. Again, like I said at the beginning, I'm terribly nervous and my brain is full of holes and I babble. And so if you'll have me, I'd happily come back. Yeah, yeah.
I would love that. I think we're just scratching the surface of some of the real wrestling nerddom elements that we likely have in common. Just from what you said before of some of those CMLL specifics, that got me very excited. But I have to limit myself here. let's make that a future conversation. But honestly, thank you so much for the chat. I really have enjoyed this. And I think it's a really unique thing getting to talk to someone on the other side of the world, who is obsessed with a similar thing that I'm obsessed with. So I'm just grateful to be able to speak to you and nerd out about this stuff a little bit.
Mate, thank you so much. No, incredibly grateful. Like you think to speak to me, man. So no, thank you.
Oh, I greatly appreciate it. But anything that you would like to plug here on the way out?
Everything and nothing. No, because go to Amazon and look for the J Crowned books. Buy Michelle Kane's book. Buy Rob Goodwin's book. Buy PWI. Follow me on Twitter or Instagram. For me, that's that. Thank you.
Lovely. Well, I'll definitely have all of those social links in the description of this episode. So if you'd like to, easy way to get to those places, if you scroll on down and hit those links, you should be able to find them. But yeah, so good. I just feel so great that we got to have this chat. Thanks so much, dude.
No, you're the man. Thank you.
Okay, there we go. A lovely chat. I always really dig this thing. This talking to other wrestling artists is what this whole thing is about. I dig it. I can dig it a lot. I hope you guys got something out of that. A fascinating chap. I really. I feel like I say this every time I interview a wrestling artist, but we'll definitely have to get Matt back on the show at some point in the future. So much fascinating stuff to talk about. But I think it's a time that I say a big old thank you to the great team at Social Suplex. The guys, allowing me to do this show, keeping the lights on and all that jazz. Socialsuplex.com is the best place you can go to check out all of the Social Suplex things, including a bunch of other rad wrestling podcasts. Yes, if you have a hankering for a New Japan podcast or an All Elite Wrestling podcast or a WWE podcast, you can find all of those things on there. We've got Keeping It Strong Style, All Things Elite, One Nation Radio, Trish and Sarah, Imps WWE Adventure, Tunnel Talk, all the things. I think I hopefully got them all there. If I left anyone out, I'm very sorry. But yeah, thanks Social Suplex. Thank you to you, the listener. I think it still blows me away that you guys voluntarily download this show and listen. Spend your your time listening to this thing. Listen to me ramble on like an idiot. But, yeah, I don't know if you guys dig this. That makes me happy. I hope you do. I hope you get something out of it. if you're a creative or enjoy making a bit of art, if this is a good little bit of motivation for you, then I think that is just delightful and the most I could ever expect out of this thing. But yeah, if y'all want to support, you can do so by following me on the Instagram at Chris Things to keep up with my stuff. Jumping on christhings.com.au, where you can buy the things. You can buy fancy Chris Things art print for as low as $25 with free shipping. Original art, calendars, t-shirts, all of the things. christhings.com.au. And yeah, more stuff in the pipelines. I've always got new stuff going up on there. As I mentioned in the intro, we've got the newsletter now. You can sign up on the contact page, and that can let you know when new original stuff is available. But I really did get to do this thing. It is a lot of fun, and I'm gonna continue kicking along. And yeah, I can't wait to have more other rad wrestling artists on this show. That's what this whole thing is all about. But thanks again. I think that's it. All right, I will see y'all next week. Later.
Do the hammer like